Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
Today we're going to be looking at something pretty fascinating.
Really interesting stuff.
The intersection of criminal psychology and human perception,
Yeah.
which, might sound a little bit intimidating,
Yeah, it can be a dense area.
but
A lot of really interesting stuff.
we're going to try to break it down. We're going to be looking at the text Criminal Psychology,
Which is,
which covers just a ton
yeah, a really wide range.
of really interesting cases, studies, and
Mhm.
kind of digs into how our brains work.
Yeah, exactly. And
I
how
think it's
that
application-wise.
relates to
For criminal
justice,
psychology,
yeah.
So
How easily we can be fooled and
this is relevant for everyone, right?
oh, absolutely.
Like, this isn't just for,
yeah.
you
Yeah.
police and lawyers and judges. And
It's really for everybody.
this is like how to understand
Yeah.
the people around you,
Mm-hmm.
how to understand your own brain,
Understand how you think.
how to spot liars,
Mm-hmm.
how to...
Understand your own biases.
How to
The
think
way our
that-
perceptions are shaped
Yeah,
by our own experiences.
fooled by like a really good convincing witness or something.
Yeah, how to be discerning.
Yeah.
Critically about.
We're really excited to dive into this.
Yeah, this is a good one.
One of the core ideas in this text
Mm-hmm.
is that understanding people, their motivations, their quirks,
yeah.
their capacity for honesty and deception
Well, all of that
is just as important
is absolutely critical.
as any legal knowledge
Yeah.
when it comes to the justice system.
Yeah, you have to understand people,
Yeah.
at least as well as you understand the law.
It's like trying to solve a puzzle
Okay.
without looking at the picture on the box.
I like that.
You know?
Okay.
You might be able to like fit some pieces together,
Yeah.
but you're never going to get the full picture.
You're never going to see the big picture.
And the text actually puts it this way.
Okay. How did they say it?
It says, and I quote,
Okay.
"We criminalists need knowledge of humanity.
Okay.
The immense onerousness of the judge's office
Mm-hmm.
lies in just the fact that he needs so very much more
Oh,
than his bare legal knowledge."
that's a mouthful.
Yeah. Judges, lawyers, investigators
Right.
can't just be experts in the law.
They need to know more than the law.
They need to be experts in people, too.
Yeah, psychology is a big part of this.
They need to understand
Yeah.
how our brains work,
Mm-hmm.
how easily we can be misled,
Yes,
and how our own experiences can color our perceptions.
that's right.
And one of the most unsettling things this text points out is that
Uh-oh.
sometimes what seems like the truth
Mm-hmm.
is actually,
Not quite.
well, not quite the truth.
That's
And they
well.
call this
What do they call it?
probable truth, which is still untruth.
Probable truth, which is still untruth. Interesting way to...
Kind of mind-blowing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, so give us an example.
sure.
How can something be probably true,
Okay.
but still a lie?
So, for example, let's say you have someone who is loitering.
Okay.
Maybe they're doing something suspicious.
All right.
And when they're confronted by someone,
Okay.
maybe the authorities,
Mm-hmm.
they claim ignorance. They say, oh, I thought this was allowed.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah,
I didn't know I couldn't be here.
right.
Or, oh,
I
I didn't realize.
I didn't realize.
I didn't realize that was
Yeah, so
against the rule.
Maybe they are telling the truth.
Yeah, maybe they really didn't.
Maybe they genuinely didn't know.
No, but maybe.
Maybe they're bending the truth just enough
Yeah.
to avoid getting into trouble.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Enough to kind of
Just enough.
skirt by.
Yeah.
So it's like a...
It's like a half-truth,
Yeah.
a way of,
Or shading.
shading reality just
Exactly.
enough to
Yeah.
create
To create a different impression.
a different impression that benefits them.
And the thing is,
Yeah,
those seemingly small deviations from the truth
right.
can have huge consequences.
Oh, yeah.
Especially in legal situations.
Especially legal situations, because it can cast doubt
Yeah.
on everything else that they say.
Yeah.
You know, if they're willing to bend the truth about
Yeah.
one thing,
What else are they?
what else are they willing to bend the truth about?
Yeah, exactly.
And so, yeah, think about a witness
Yeah.
who's trying to recall a crime,
Like a car accident,
a car
a
accident.
robbery or something like
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
Okay.
And they might not be intentionally lying,
Yeah.
but
Their memory could be fuzzy.
yeah, their memory could be fuzzy.
You know,
They could be misremembering.
they could be misremembering.
Yeah, their perception could be skewed by stress or fear.
Right. Adrenaline's going.
Absolutely.
All kinds of things are going off
Yeah, in that moment.
in your brain.
So those tiny inaccuracies,
It
right?
can snowball
Yeah.
and potentially lead to a wrong conviction
Yeah.
or a guilty person going free.
That's a good point.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's making me question everything I thought I knew
Really?
about eyewitness testimony.
Makes you wonder.
Yeah.
What can we trust?
I mean, if our memories are that unreliable,
Right.
how can we ever be sure
How can we ever be sure?
what really happened?
That's a big question
That's a question
that legal systems have been grappling with
that they've been,
for centuries.
yeah,
Boy.
grappling with for a long time.
And this text really gets into the nitty-gritty of how memory works,
Yeah.
how it can be distorted,
Yeah.
and how easily
Yeah.
we can convince ourselves
Right.
that we're remembering things accurately
Yes.
when we're actually not.
When in reality,
Yeah,
we're not.
we're not.
Okay, so if we can't always trust
So who can we trust?
our own memories,
Right.
who can we trust?
Who can we trust? The text seems pretty skeptical about certain types of people,
Okay, like who?
particularly those who, shall we say,
All right.
don't always play by the rules.
Okay. People who live outside the norms.
Yeah.
Right.
There's a pretty bold statement in here
Okay. What is it?
that I think will raise some eyebrows.
All right, I'm ready.
It says, and I quote,
Okay.
"The real tramps of both sexes and all walks of life
Okay.
will never testify conscientiously."
Wow. So,
That's a bold statement.
whoa,
Yeah.
that's a pretty strong generalization.
Yeah.
Is the author saying
Is he saying
that anyone who's considered a tramp
is automatically untrustworthy?
is automatically untrustworthy?
Okay, so
Yeah.
it's important to remember that
Okay.
this text was written in a different time
Yeah,
with different social norms
for sure.
and different language.
Absolutely.
But
the underlying point is that,
the underlying point
yeah,
is that people who live outside of mainstream society,
right.
people who reject conventional ideas
Yeah.
about work and responsibility,
Like maybe they don't have a
Right.
9-to-5 job.
don't have a 9-to-5 job.
Or maybe they're not
maybe they don't.
paying taxes or
Yeah, maybe they just don't.
whatever it is.
Subscribe to
Yeah, they just don't fit
Take
into that box.
societal norms.
Right.
Might also have a different relationship with truth-telling.
Okay, so like their morals
Yeah, their morals.
and their ethics
Their ethics.
might be a little bit different.
They'd be different.
Yeah,
That can make it
and
very
they're
weird.
funded thoughts.
Right. They're funded thoughts.
Yeah.
Which is a term from the book.
Yeah.
Their worldview
Yeah.
might lead them
Yeah.
to see things differently.
Yeah.
To interpret events through a different lens.
Like they're almost
Playing by,
playing a different game.
yeah, a different set of rules.
With a different set of rules.
And that can make it very difficult to assess their credibility as witnesses.
How do we know if they're telling the truth? Or if
Because they might even believe you're telling the truth.
they might.
But it's just
Just a different
a different
set.
version of the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Their truth,
Their truth.
their testimony
Right.
might be completely truthful
Yes.
from their perspective,
From their perspective.
but it might also be
heavily influenced.
heavily influenced by their own biases, their own survival strategies,
Love
their
it.
own way of navigating the world.
They're looking out for number one.
Yeah. So
Right.
we've got unreliable memories.
Right.
We've got
Potentially.
potentially biased witnesses.
Yeah.
Is there any hope
So is there any hope
for getting to the truth
of getting to the truth?
in a criminal investigation?
Yeah. How do we even know what's real anymore?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, the text seems to suggest that the key lies in understanding.
How our minds work,
Yeah.
both on an individual level
Mm-hmm.
and a societal level.
So understanding
We need to be aware.
individuals
Yeah.
and understanding society as a whole.
Of our own biases.
Yeah.
Our own funded thoughts.
That term, again, funded thought.
About how they might be
Okay.
shaping our perceptions.
The knowledge and the biases we bring to the table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not just about
It's not just about
sorting
the liars.
or the unreliable witnesses.
It's about more than that.
It's about recognizing
It's about recognizing
that we're all susceptible
that we all have biases.
to distortion, to misinterpreting events,
Yeah, we can all
to filling in the gaps
misinterpret things.
in our memories
Yeah.
with our own assumptions.
We fill in the gaps with our own assumptions.
Yeah, and that awareness is crucial,
Yeah.
not just for
Not just for law enforcement and judges and lawyers,
yeah,
but for
in the legal system,
all of us.
but for all of us,
Because
because we're all
we're constantly making judgments about people,
Yeah,
about situations, about what's true
what's true and what's not.
and what's not true
Yeah.
and what's false.
This is getting deep, folks.
It's getting deep, and we're just getting scratching the surface of this fascinating text.
Yeah, we're just
So we're going to keep going.
take a deeper dive here.
We're about to delve into some even more mind-bending stuff.
Okay, Even whimper.
Like the power of nonverbal cues.
Nonverbal
The
cues.
psychology of deception.
So how to spot a liar.
Yeah.
How to
And the surprising things,
tell if someone's being truthful.
there are facial expressions.
Just by looking at them.
Can reveal about our true intentions.
Our true intentions,
Yes.
yeah.
So buckle up, listeners.
Yeah, this is going to be good.
This deep dive is about to get really interesting.
It is. All right, so we've talked about how our memories can be unreliable
Right.
and how our biases can shape what we see and remember.
Absolutely.
But what about those times
Yeah.
when people are intentionally trying to deceive us?
Okay.
How do we spot a liar?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
The text delves into the fascinating world of nonverbal communication
Okay.
and how even the smallest gestures or expressions
Yeah.
can betray our true intentions.
Oh, wow.
So it's like
So like a little twitch?
a little twitch or,
Right.
a shift in their eyes
Yeah.
or the way they hold their mouth.
Right.
It can all be very telling.
It's like our bodies are speaking a language
Right.
that we're not always aware of,
Exactly.
but the trained observers can pick up on.
A trained observer can spot these things.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
So it's not just about what people say,
Not just about the words,
it's about how they say it, right?
how they say it, the tone,
Their body language, their tone of voice,
their posture, their
even their eye movements
eye contact huge.
can reveal a lot about what they're really thinking.
Absolutely.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
The text specifically highlights the importance
Okay.
of observing eye movements during questioning.
Okay, so like in a police interrogation or
Even just like
even just in a regular
a
conversation.
job interview,
Yeah.
something like that.
Exact.
And it gives the example that if someone closes their eyes
Okay.
when confronted with incriminating evidence,
Yeah. Oh.
it could be a sign.
They don't want to see it.
Yeah.
They don't want to face it.
That they're trying to block out the truth.
Yeah, it's like a defense mechanism.
Yeah, it's like their body is instinctively
Right.
trying to shield them
Protect themselves.
from something unpleasant.
Yeah.
Even if their words are saying something completely different,
Right. Their words might be saying, no, I didn't do it.
but their eyes are like,
But their body language is screaming something else.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's making me think about all those times
Yeah.
I've been in conversations
Uh-huh.
where I felt like someone wasn't being totally honest with me,
Right. You get that gut feeling.
but I couldn't quite put my finger on why.
You just sense something's off.
Yeah, like something's off.
But you can't articulate it.
I can't explain it, but I just...
Yeah, we're wired to pick up on these subtle cues,
Okay.
even if we're not consciously aware of it.
It's like a subconscious.
Our brains are constantly processing information,
Yeah.
looking for patterns,
Right?
trying to make sense of the world around us.
Like little computers.
Yeah, exactly.
And sometimes those nonverbal signals are telling us something that the words aren't.
The nonverbals are more reliable
Yeah.
than the
Like,
verbal.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about some specific examples.
All right, let's get specific.
The text mentions
Okay.
the scornful smile
Scornful smile.
as a particularly interesting expression.
Okay, I've never thought about that.
So special.
What's so special about a scornful smile?
About a scornful smile.
Like, what does it tell us?
Yeah, what is that?
What's going on?
Communicating.
Yeah.
Well, the text makes a distinction
Okay.
between a genuine scornful smile
So there's a real one
and a feigned one.
and a fake one.
Okay.
Interesting.
A genuine scornful smile, it says,
Okay.
appears when someone feels unjustly accused.
Oh, so it's like
It's an involuntary reaction.
a reaction to
Yeah.
feeling wronged or misunderstood.
To feeling wronged or misunderstood.
Yeah, like you've been falsely accused of something.
Yeah.
And you're like, how dare you?
And you're like scoffing.
And you scoff and you give
Yeah.
this scornful smile. Like,
Yeah.
I can't believe you would even suggest that.
So it's like our face is betraying our indignation,
Right.
even if we're trying to keep a straight face.
Even if you're trying to hold it together,
Yeah.
you can't hide it.
But how can you tell
How can you tell?
if it's genuine or fake?
If it's the real deal or if it's a put on?
Yeah.
Well, there are some subtle clues.
No.
A genuine scornful smile usually involves
Okay.
a tightening of the muscles around the eyes.
Like a crinkling.
Yeah, a kind of crinkling.
Yeah.
That's hard to fake.
Like you can't really control those muscles.
Right, it's an involuntary muscle contraction.
Okay.
A forced smile, on the other hand,
Yeah.
might look more strained.
Like a
with less involvement.
Grimace.
Yeah, almost like a grimace.
Yeah.
With less involvement of the eye muscles.
Yeah, like the eyes aren't smiling.
Right. The eyes aren't smiling.
It's just the mouth.
Just the mouth.
It's like our eyes are the windows to our soul.
The eyes are the window to the soul.
Even when we're trying to put on a mask,
You can't hide those eyes.
you can't hide.
They betray you every time.
And those subtle cues can be incredibly revealing,
Absolutely.
especially in high-stakes situations,
Like a courtroom?
like a criminal investigation or a courtroom trial.
Yeah, where the stakes are high.
Yeah,
People are trying to really control
it matters.
their behavior.
Yeah, what you're projecting.
But those little micro expressions
Yeah.
can slip out.
Okay, so we've got eye movements,
Yeah.
scornful smiles.
Right.
What other body language clues should we be paying attention to?
Well, the text also mentions the gesture of resignation
The gesture of resignation.
as a surprisingly revealing cue,
Like a sigh or
like a sigh
like a
or like a slumping of the shoulders.
slumping of the shoulders.
Or like a,
Duke.
yeah, just kind of like a giving up,
Giving up.
a defeated posture.
Now, you might think
You would think,
that someone who's guilty
right?
would be more likely to show resignation,
You'd think they'd be more resigned.
knowing they've been caught.
Yeah.
But
I think
actually,
it's the opposite.
it's the opposite.
The innocent person
So someone who's innocent
is more likely to show resignation.
is more likely to show resignation.
Wait.
Why is that?
Because they're thinking, well, I've got nothing to hide. I'm going to be exonerated.
Okay.
So they kind of give up and resign themselves.
So they kind of like give up
Yeah.
and are like, all
They're
right.
like, well, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I am innocent, but I'm just going to go along with this. And eventually the truth will come out.
Yeah.
So it's a very counterintuitive
Very counterintuitive.
observation.
Yeah.
But the text suggests
Okay.
that it has to do with a deep-seated belief
Okay.
in one's own innocence.
Only someone who feels they have a right to innocence
Right.
would express resignation when that innocence is threatened.
Because they know they're innocent.
It's like their body is saying,
They're like, I'm
surrendering to the situation.
surrendering because I know
Because I know I have nothing to hide.
I have nothing to hide.
That's fascinating.
It is fascinating.
It's like our bodies are expressing our inner convictions.
It betrays you
Yeah,
even before your words do.
even before we have a chance to articulate them. It makes you wonder
Yeah.
if there's some kind of subconscious communication going on that we're not even aware of.
Like we're sending out signals
Yeah.
that other people are picking up on.
And this is where the study of human perception
This is where it gets
gets really interesting,
really juicy.
because it's not just about
Right.
consciously observing and interpreting signals.
It's not just about what we're consciously aware of.
It's also about understanding the unconscious processes,
Right. The things that
the instinctive reactions that
Yeah.
shape our behavior
are happening below the surface,
and our perceptions of others.
our perceptions of ourselves
Yeah.
and the world around us.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we've been talking a lot about the psychology of perception,
Right.
but what about the physical side of things?
Okay, let's talk about the body.
How do our bodies actually produce
Yeah.
these expressions and gestures?
How do we make those faces?
Yeah, how do we actually
like those muscles move?
make those movements?
Well, the text gets into some pretty fascinating details
Okay.
about the physiology of facial expressions.
Like which muscles are involved in a smile?
Exactly. It references the work of Harless,
Harlow.
who explained how different muscle groups
Okay.
are activated based on the intensity of the emotion.
So like if you're really happy,
Yeah.
you're going to use more muscles.
More muscles are going to fire.
than if you're just kind of like,
Yeah. If you're just kind of like,
yeah.
versus like, woo-hoo, you
Right.
know different muscles are going to be involved.
So it's like our faces are wired to express certain
They
emotions
express emotion
in very specific ways.
and very specific.
A genuine smile of joy
Right?
will engage different muscles
Different muscles.
than, say, a polite smile.
Yeah, a fake smile.
We might use in a social situation.
A social smile versus a genuine Duchenne smile.
And those differences, while often subtle,
Oh, subtle differences.
can be detected by trained observers,
A trained observer can spot them.
like someone who's really good at reading people.
Exactly. Someone who's studied
Yeah.
facial expressions.
This connects to the broader concept
This connects to
of physiognomy, right?
the physiognomy.
The idea that we can understand
The idea that
like someone's character or
we can
personality
tell something about a person
by studying their facial features.
by looking at their face.
Now,
And
obviously,
their-
we're not saying,
A controversial idea.
yeah,
Yeah.
while physiognomy has a controversial history
Yeah.
and should be approached with caution.
Right. We don't want to
It does
The
highlight
herd generalize or stereotype.
the undeniable link
Yeah.
between our physical features and our inner world.
There is a connection
Yeah.
between the face and the mind.
Okay, so
Well,
while we shouldn't judge a book by its cover,
right.
our faces can reveal a lot
Our faces can tell us a lot
about our thoughts, feelings,
about a person.
and even our underlying motivations.
Yeah, what's really going on inside?
It's a reminder
It's a reminder
that our bodies are constantly communicating,
we are always communicating,
even when we're not aware of it.
whether we realize it or not.
Now, this next topic
Okay.
is one that I think will resonate with a lot of our listeners
All right.
because it deals with something
Okay.
we've all experienced at some point.
With that,
Partial confessions.
partial confessions.
Ah, yes.
Interesting.
The classic case of the thief
Okay.
who admits to stealing 12 objects,
Okay. They stole 12 things.
but vehemently denies taking 2 others.
But not those other 2.
It's like
Okay, you've confessed to most of it.
you've admitted to most of it.
So why are you being so stubborn about these last 2 items?
Why are you digging in your heels on these 2?
What's so special about these 2?
Yeah, what's the big deal?
But from a legal standpoint, it gets really tricky.
It does make things complicated.
Indeed, the text points out
Okay.
that there are valid arguments to be made on both sides. Some might argue.
On the one hand, that the thief is simply trying to minimize their guilt.
Right, they're just trying to
While others might say
diffuse their sentence.
that if they were willing to confess to 12 items,
Right.
why would they lie about 2?
Why lie about those last 2?
That's a great point.
Yeah.
It's a classic case of he said, she said,
He said, she said.
but with a twist.
But with a twist.
And it really highlights the limitations
The limitations of the legal system.
of legal systems that rely heavily
that rely on
clear-cut confessions or denials.
black and white answers.
Because human behavior is rarely clear-cut.
Right. We're not
We're complex creatures,
black and white creatures.
capable of both honesty and deception,
We can be both
often within the same breath.
at the same time. Okay.
Okay.
Let's shift gears for a moment
Right, new topic.
and talk about something that we all love.
What's that?
Analogies.
Analogies. I love a good analogy.
We use them all the time
They help us understand things.
to explain complex concepts to make things more relatable. Yeah, make it more concrete.
But as this text points out,
Uh-oh.
analogies can be a bit seductive.
Seduct.
They can lead us astray if we're not careful.
Okay, so how can analogies lead us astray?
Well, the text emphasizes this point
Okay.
by citing Trendelenburg's argument
Kundelenburg.
that analogies,
Okay.
while useful for sparking new thinking,
They can help us think in new ways.
often fail to provide conclusive proof
Ah.
in legal contexts
So they're not always reliable.
because every case is unique.
Right. Every case is different.
You can't just assume
You can't just assume.
that because one situation resembles another,
Right.
the same logic or outcome will apply.
Just because it happened this way in one case
Yeah.
doesn't mean it's going to happen that way in another case.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is where critical thinking comes in.
Critical thinking is key.
We need to be able to analyze
And you say analyze.
the specific details of each case
Specifics.
rather than relying on oversimplified comparisons.
Not just jump to conclusion.
So while analogies can be helpful
So they're useful.
for understanding general principles,
But
they shouldn't be used
they shouldn't be the end-all be-all.
as a substitute for rigorous investigation.
Right. We need more than just an analogy.
And evidence-based reasoning.
We need evidence.
It's a reminder
It's a reminder.
that the world is full of nuances,
Lots of nuance.
and those nuances matter,
Those details matter.
especially when people's lives are at stake.
Absolutely.
And nowhere are those nuances more important
Nowhere more important.
than in the realm of criminal justice,
Criminal justice.
where the stakes are incredibly high.
The stakes are high.
Yeah. Yeah.
People's freedom.
People could go to jail for the rest of their lives.
Their lives.
Or be put to death.
Yeah. Serious business.
This is serious stuff.
Yeah.
Speaking of high stakes,
Okay. High stakes.
let's delve into the tricky world
All right. Tricky world.
of probability and prediction
Probability and prediction.
and how they apply or misapply.
How do they apply in the legal system?
In criminal cases,
Right.
this is where things can get really statistically messy.
This is where the numbers come in.
The text does a great job of breaking down
Okay, good.
the different types of probability
Right. All right.
and how they can be easily confused,
Easily confused.
leading to faulty conclusions.
Which could be a big problem.
Yeah, huge problem.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's
so we've got unconditioned probability,
unconditioned probabilities.
which are based
I know
on
those.
general trends or patterns,
Okay.
like the likelihood of rain in a certain month,
So like general trends over time.
Right.
Okay.
But then we have conditioned probabilities.
Conditioned probabilities.
Which are much more
These are different.
specific
Okay.
and context dependent.
Right.
And it's the conditioned probability
So these are the ones
that are most relevant
that are relevant
in criminal investigations.
for solving crimes.
For instance,
Okay.
the probability of a specific suspect.
Being guilty. Being guilty. Depends on a whole host of factors.
So not just the numbers.
Not just statistical averages.
Yeah, it's more complicated than
It's like knowing
Right.
that a certain percentage of burglaries occur in a certain neighborhood.
just because there's a lot of burglaries.
Doesn't tell you which individual
Doesn't mean
committed a specific burglary.
this particular person did it.
Right.
Yeah.
We need more than just statistics to solve a crime.
Way more.
We need
We need evidence.
evidence,
We need motive.
motive, opportunity, and a whole lot of critical thinking
We need to put the pieces together
to connect the dots.
and use our brains.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This makes me wonder, how often do we misjudge probabilities
How often do we get it wrong?
in our own lives?
Yeah.
Based on limited information or personal biases.
Yeah, based on our own assumptions.
We do it all the time.
We do it all the time.
Our brains are wired
Our brains to seek patterns and make predictions.
to make predictions,
Even when we don't have all the data.
even when we don't have all the information.
It's like our brains are little probability machines.
Little computers
Constantly calculating odds and making assumptions.
trying to figure it all out.
Sometimes that's helpful.
Sometimes it's helpful.
And sometimes it backfires.
It can lead to some serious misjudgments.
Yeah, it can get us in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's about being aware of those mental shortcuts, those cognitive biases.
That can lead us astray.
Yeah. Okay, buckle up, folks,
All right.
because we're about to enter the twilight zone of perception.
The twilight zone.
This text dives deep
Okay.
into how our senses can be deceived,
Our senses can be deceived.
how our brains can trick us,
Our brains can play tricks on us.
and how even well-intentioned witnesses
Even good people.
can be misled by illusions or subjective interpretations.
This would be full.
The key takeaway here.
The key takeaway is that eyewitness accounts,
Eyewitness account.
while often crucial,
Should
always be treated with caution.
we should be careful.
Our senses are not infallible,
They're not perfect.
and our memories are not perfect recordings of events.
No.
It's like that saying,
What's the saying?
never trust your own eyes.
Never trust your own eyes.
Except it's not just our eyes that can deceive us,
It's all of our senses.
it's all of our senses.
Our ears, our nose,
Touch, taste.
our
smell.
taste, our touch.
No.
All of them can be fooled.
Yeah. The text highlights optical illusions
Still illusion.
as a prime example of how our visual
Of
perception
vision.
can be
It
manipulated.
can be tricked.
Even simple lines or shapes
Yeah.
can be perceived in different ways,
Different ways.
depending on the context.
Depending on the context.
I'm thinking about all those
I'm thinking about those.
mind-bending optical illusions we've all seen.
Yeah, the ones where the lines look like they're moving.
Yeah, the ones where the lines look like they're moving,
Or the image flips back and forth.
or the image flips back and forth
Yeah.
between two different perspectives.
Yeah, those are crazy.
Those illusions demonstrate
They demonstrate
that our brains are actively interpreting sensory information,
our brains are working hard.
not passively recording it.
They're not just cameras.
And those interpretations can be influenced
And they can be influenced
by a host of factors,
by all sorts of things.
including our expectations,
Our expectations,
our emotions,
our emotions,
and even our cultural background.
our culture.
So what we see
What we see
is not always what's actually there.
is not always reality.
Our brains are
Our brains
filling in the gaps, making assumptions,
filling in the blanks.
and creating a version of
Keep
reality
stuff up.
that might not match up with objective truth.
Yeah,
And this is especially important to keep in mind
this is important.
when evaluating eyewitness testimony.
Eyewitness testimony.
A witness might genuinely believe
They might really believe
they saw something,
they saw something.
but their perception
What?
could have been
But
distorted
For perception,
by any number of factors.
it would be wrong.
This reminds me of
Just reminds me of,
some famous cases of mistaken identity
oh yeah,
based on faulty eyewitness testimony.
wrongful convictions.
It's a sobering reminder
It's scary
that our legal systems,
that the justice system
while striving for justice,
tries to get it right.
are ultimately reliant on human perception,
It's based on
which is inherently fallible.
human beings.
And human beings make mistakes.
All the time.
It's pretty scary, right?
It is kind of unsettling.
When you think about how our whole system of justice is built on this idea
that we can trust people.
We can trust what people say they saw or heard.
Right, that their perception
And this text is basically saying,
is accurate.
hold on a minute, folks.
Yeah.
It's not that simple.
Not so fast. Yeah.
It's way more complicated than that.
And that's why this deep dive has been so fascinating.
Absolutely.
Because it's forcing us to confront.
Yeah, to really think about
those uncomfortable truths about human perception.
Yeah, to question our assumptions.
Like, we want to believe that we're rational.
That we're objective.
Objective observers.
That we see the world as it is.
But the reality is that our brains are constantly...
Our brains are always...
filtering information. Making assumptions.
Taking shortcuts.
And filling in the gaps. With our own biases.
With our own preconceived notions.
So what's the solution?
Yeah, what do we do about this?
If we can't trust our own senses, how can we ever hope to get to the truth? Especially when it comes to something as serious...
when it really matters.
As a criminal investigation.
Yeah, in a court of law.
Well, the text doesn't offer any easy answer.
Oh, easy answers.
But I think one of the key takeaways is...
one of the big things...
the importance of humility.
We need to acknowledge the limitations of our own perception.
That we don't have all the answers.
To be open to the possibility.
Open to the possibility.
That we might be wrong.
You could be wrong.
And to be willing to consider alternative perspectives.
As a points of view.
It's like that saying.
What's
don't believe everything you think.
Don't believe everything you think.
I like that.
And that applies to our perceptions of the world.
Yeah, the way we see things.
Just as much as it does. It's not just about...
to our own thoughts and beliefs.
Our thoughts and beliefs.
We need to be critical thinkers.
Be critical.
To question our own assumptions.
Question every...
and to be willing to change our minds.
Willing to change your mind.
When presented with new evidence.
When new information comes up.
So it's not about...
it's not about...
throwing out all eyewitness testimony or dismissing the importance of observation.
Observation's still important.
It's about recognizing that even the most sincere witness...
even those trying to be truthful...
is bringing their own baggage.
Their own stuff.
Their past experiences.
Their experiences.
Their expectations.
To the table.
To the table. And that's why it's so crucial for investigators.
So important.
Judges. Anyone involved in the legal system.
Yeah. Anyone making decisions.
To have that
understanding.
Knowledge of humanity.
Of human nature.
The text talks about.
Yeah, they need to be.
You need to be able to see beyond the surface.
To see beyond the surface.
To understand the psychological factors.
The psychologist.
That might be shaping a witness's account.
That's influencing what they say.
So it's all about context.
Right.
Context is everything.
We can't just take an observation.
You can't just...
at face value.
Take it at face value.
We need to understand the person.
Understand the person.
Making that observation.
Making the observation.
Their funded thought.
Their funded thought.
As the text calls it. Their background, their beliefs, their experiences.
And this deep dive has really highlighted...
it really shows.
How intertwined...
how connected...
psychology and criminal justice are.
Psychology and law.
To get to the truth.
If you want to find the truth...
you need to understand.
You need to understand.
Both the law.
The law.
And... the human mind.
And the human mind.
Well, this has been a mind-blowing deep dive.
It's been quite a journey.
I feel like I've learned so much.
Me too.
But also realized how much more I still need to learn.
There's always more to learn.
That's the beauty of it, isn't it?
It is.
The more we learn about human perception,
the more you realize.
The more we realize how complex.
It's complex.
And fascinating it is.
And amazing the human brain is.
So, to our listener out there.
Yeah.
What's the one thing you really want them to take away?
The one.
From this episode?
I would say.
What's the big takeaway?
Don't be afraid to question.
Question?
Everything.
Question your own perceptions.
Your own perception.
Let's question the accounts of others.
What other people tell you.
And always be open.
Be open.
To the possibility.
To the possibility.
That there's more to the story.
That there's more going on.
Than meets the eye.
And you might realize.
Because the truth, as we've seen.
The truth is
rarely simple or straightforward.
Messy.
It's often hidden beneath layers of perception, interpretation.
Interpretation.
And yes, even deception.
And sometimes lies.
And it's up to each of us.
So it's up to us.
To develop
It's critical
thinking skills and the awareness.
Critical thinking skill.
To navigate this complex landscape.
To navigate this world.
So to our listener out there.
To our listener.
Keep your eyes open.
Eyes open.
Your mind sharp.
Mind sharp.
And never stop questioning.
And never stop questioning.
The world around you.
The world around you.
Who knows what fascinating truths.
What truths?
You might uncover.
You might find.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks for listening.